All right. I'm gonna give it about 2 more minutes, just so everyone has a heads up here.
Mike, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Bill Nalu, and my wife's here as well. We, interestingly enough, we were referred to you guys by Blackstone Builders, and I
Okay.
got an email yesterday to set up an appointment, and all of a sudden I'm looking at your website and I saw that you were having this webinar. I'm really looking forward to the information that you're sharing because this is like right in line with what I've got to believe every client is wondering is how do I eat this elephant?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Where do you start, right? Well, nice to meet you,
exactly.
Bill.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. I mean, thanks for everybody joining in too. This is something that I like doing every, twice a year maybe, just talking about what the latest scoop is, what's going on, what do we do, how do we design something for the future, really for everybody.
I'm assuming you'll probably hit technology and sort of how AI and how rendering is adding to your specialty. I mean, obviously you guys are architects, but you're also artists at heart. I'm really
Hmm.
interested in seeing that, how 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 you bring that all together and make something functional and yet economically, efficient,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I won't be touching on AI today on this presentation, but it's with our skill level here and our capabilities, we present in 3D, we do sketches. I mean, everybody has a great visual of what they're getting into and how the process works so we can work out all the kinks and bugs before we get started. It's a great experience for anybody, whether it's a custom home or renovation. There's some really great tools that we use here to help everybody kind of visualize what's going on.
Very good.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get us started here, and you probably see on the screen already just kind of a cover page here. Really, what today's about is I want to talk about, well, how do we design a home for the future, and more importantly, what can we do with designing a new home? What are some of the trends that we can build into your design, or to a production builder, or to a renovation, or just a custom house? How do we how do we make that house unique, but also stand the test of time? We don't want to make it feel like it's been dated. We've designed it for 2025 and that's it. 10 years from now, everyone's going to know exactly when we did it. The idea is that we can design for longevity, design a home that kind of evolves with what changes in your lifestyle, what changes in your family. I really want to touch on a few things today, but before I get started, if you don't mind, please hold your questions to the very end. I'd love to do a little Q&A at the end if anybody does have any questions, so I encourage you to just jot down maybe a thought or two. It's a brief presentation. It's probably about 20-25 minutes long, and then we'll save a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. But just getting started, a lot of you, I know you already. However, going forward, working through some stuff here, there's a few that I don't know. And for those we don't know, for those who don't know our process, we're a residential architecture firm based out of South Line. We're shortly moving to Novi here, if you in about a month actually, which is really exciting for us. But we've been a company for nearly 20 years now, and we design homes all over the country. You see this little road map here. These are a lot of the states we're currently designing homes in. And what's great about that is not only do we have to abide by certain ordinances and building trades and just practices all across the country, but I also see what are the wants and needs from one area of the country to the next, and how do trends kind of transcend from one side of the country to the other. So I can speak towards, you know, what's popular right now, what's going to be a shorter fad, what's going to last a while, what's something maybe we want to try to avoid. That being said, we design probably about 170 different projects a year. We've got a big team here. We've got about 35 people. I'm the president of design, so I'm going to work and oversee a lot of kind of our guidelines here, and also best practices on how do we create a uniformity and also create a set of drawings that not only build great and build efficiently, but they're going to live great. They're going to be designed for what you need. And there's basically nine key points I want to talk about today. And we can start off with the first one right here. And that's outdoor living or lanais or decks. It's really connecting the home to the outside. No matter if you're in California or in the UP in Michigan, really the idea here is we want to try to integrate some kind of covered outdoor space that can extend the inside of your house to the outside. The idea is that we basically, you're entertaining, you've got a nice sized great room, but maybe we've got a big door wall off the back that opens up out to a nice, beautiful covered outdoor lanai. Maybe that area is screened, or perhaps you got a grill out there. The idea is you connect the inside and the outside. It's almost in a way free square footage, even though oftentimes these covered outdoor spaces tend to be a little bit more expensive than some of the interior spaces. Here's a great example. We had this really great floor plan. They're on the water. They wanted to capitalize as much view as possible to the back. So we had this kitchen, dining room, great room orientation all in a row to kind of capture as much natural light and view to the back. We ended up adding this covered lanai off to the, oops, sorry here. I'm pushing the wrong buttons here. Ah, there we go. So we had this covered lanai at the back left corner of the house. Great. It ends up being more like a Four Seasons room in this case. It started out as a covered area. Then we realized, you know what? They wanted more of that space. What's cool about this covered lanai is we had these big sliding doors that opened up from the great room out to the lanai. And then even from the lanai out to this covered outdoor living off to the side. The idea here is that, again, the great room, we can open up this door. You've got a fireplace out in that lanai. It's a heated square footage. This was designed in Michigan, so that room's not going to be used all four seasons of the year. However, they could if they wanted to. We've got a heater out there. There's a fireplace. We've got glass and sliding doors. And then there's an area even off to the side that opens up. You go out to a covered outdoor living. So you've got protection from the elements. You can leave the furniture out there. It doesn't have to get wet. You can set something up a little nicer. And then even an uncovered patio off to the side. So you can see in this plan how important it is to integrate that indoor-outdoor space. Here's another example. Again, this is a large room. However, there's unique ways of doing it. You don't have to have a sliding door. It doesn't have to be wide open. It could be these overhead garage doors that are glass. You still feel like you're outside when you're in that room because there's so much glass there. Another concept here off to the side is a simple covered porch off to the side of the house. We're not obstructing view into the main portion of the house, but we've got a nice covered area over here that happens to be right off their dining nook. It's covered. They actually have retractable screens in there. They could push a button. It goes up and disappears into the wall. And you've got this great integration between the inside space, this outside space. And it's really connecting you to the outdoors, really making it feel like, hey, my house is we just added 500 square feet by just going outside because we've got it covered and you feel like you're out of the weather. Next big topic, and any cabin suppliers out there would know this too. This is these walk-in pantries. The walk-in pantries, the scullery, the prep kitchen. This is the latest thing, and this is oftentimes where we start at when I have a custom client walk in. This is on the top of their wish list. Usually item 1 or 2. It's not so much the kitchen, but we want a big pantry where we can put a countertop. We can have storage. Maybe there's a second sink. The idea is that, we want to keep the kitchen area a little more streamlined, a little simplified, but we want an area in the back where we're going to have our family stuff. It can be a little messier, not in this picture, obviously. This is pretty well organized, but it's an area where you can tuck the dirty dishes back while you're entertaining. You can take care of them later. It's usually tucked around the corner from the kitchen itself. Here's an example on the plan of where that walk-in pantry or the dirty kitchen, that was a little more focused than even the kitchen itself. You can see in this plan, it actually takes place on the back of the house, kind of capitalizing some prime real estate for a view of the outdoor living. The kitchen was then pushed forward, but the focus here was, you know what, we want this really cool walk-in pantry. It's open, but it's still able to be closed off if we want it to. And that's where we spend most of our time. I want to do all the baking back there. I want to do the cooking. That way we keep our kitchen clean. It's a little more organized. Usually everyone's hanging out the island, so I don't want to feel like I'm crowding that. So that was, that's what we did in this plan. However, in some cases, we have that little more open up. Like this is a great example of that scullery just behind where the kitchen sits. So it's still connected. It still feels like it's a part of the kitchen itself, but it's tucked back there. We can have the sink back there, perhaps under a window. It really allows us to change up the cabinetry if we wanted to and make it feel like its own unique space. Other times, we're taking that area and stretching it out and having a countertop in there with that auxiliary sink. The sink in the island is still a big popular thing, and because we want to have this open kitchen area, but everyone's always a little worried about, well, when we're entertaining, where do we put our dirty dishes? So I don't want to have to do them right there. Maybe I can tuck them back in this pantry. I have a sink back there, maybe even a dishwasher, and now I can just shove all the stuff back there, continue on with the party, and we can take care of it later that night. The next item, it really comes down to more of a feature in the house. How do we make the home feel a little more unique to you or to your client, or just distinguish you from the next builder that's building homes of your competition too? And this is a great example of something simple. It's a small little coffee bar. It's off the dining room, but it's pushed off to the side. We took some cabinets there. We had a big feature window. It's tucked in. It's not overbearing. It's not in your face, but it does feel very unique. With this in particular, we did some taller windows and then some pocketed cubbies off to the side where they can hide their coffee machine and the shelf. So it's still clean. It doesn't become disorganized throughout the day. And here's an example of how that could work in the floor plan. We've got a nice big floor plan here. This happens to be a story and a half, but there's a few things we did. Let's see here. There we go. So that highlighted area right there is where we built in this wall feature of a wine station. This ended up being relatively simple, it's off to the side, relatively inexpensive too, but it really transformed that dining space into something special. Now we've got a featured glass wine bar along the side. And there's also areas where it doesn't have to be beverage related. It can be more specific to, let's say, a staircase. We want to find somewhere in the house that we can make unique, make custom for the client, or just have somewhere where they can put their own touch on it. So it could be the wine station. It could be a featured staircase off the foyer where you walk in. Now, staircase is one of the most expensive things you can deal with when you come to making a feature item, especially if it ends up being a floating staircase like this. However, it's such an impactful moment when you first walk in the door, or off to the side, or it's just really cool feature off just around the corner. But in this case, there's a floating staircase. If we can't go that far, maybe it's just finding somewhere simple, somewhere in the house where we can perhaps do a little pocketed art niche, or in this case, water bottle display. Again, this isn't too expensive. It's not structural. It's something that someone can really spend a little time and make this feel like it's totally custom to them. It's unique. It's something special. So you walk into the house, that's probably one of the first things they're going to show off. Something to think about. And it could be even something a little more elaborate like this, where we ended up pushing back the dining room and creating a whole little alcove off to the back here, which you'll see that little wine station beverage bar. It's got a pair of chairs over there, some nice cabinetry, space where they can really make unique to them. It's a smaller area to sit. Again, a cool little feature, something special, something unique to the house without having to add a ton of square footage, and oftentimes without having to add anything structural. It's really a way to put their stamp on the plan. And it could be something even more simple as, let's just find a feature wall. Maybe we'll take some of the stone from the outside, we'll put it off the foyer, and we'll have that elaborate, just decorative textured stone wall. Or maybe it's a piece of artwork, or in this case, wallpaper. And there's this big feature wall right off between the foyer and the living room. Relatively simple. This case, like I said, it's wallpaper, but it really adds a touch to the great room, to the house, that's unique to them and something special. Next, I want to talk about the islands. Was the islands aren't getting any smaller. As a matter of fact, we just keep making them bigger and bigger and bigger. And the idea here is that it seems to be the focus for most families that that's where they tend to eat at. Now, this will vary for everybody. For my family, it's a little different. We still sit at the table. However, still like that big island. Because oftentimes you're sitting there, kids might be doing homework. More than that, though, if you're entertaining, that's where everyone's hanging out. They tend to kind of gather around there, hang out. So if we can stretch these islands out, make them a little bigger, people are okay with that. Oftentimes we're a little limited by, what's the finish on that island? Is it a quartz? Is it a marble? Is it granite? Now there's certain sizes where we would try to maintain if we don't want to have a seam in it. However, it seems to be that most people don't care about that seam because the trades are getting so good at matching those up and really finding it hard to distinguish between where that seam would be. So I'm seeing islands now that are 5 foot by 12 or 13 by 4, whatever we can do to stretch that out, depending on the square footage of the home. But the idea here is big islands. Oftentimes the sink still lives there, whether it's the full sink or the prep sink, but the bigger island makes that sink kind of disappear a little bit more, and you just have more space. I always think you got to be careful though, because if we get too wide on these islands, it's hard to reach across where you can't wipe them down anymore. So I like to stay about 5 foot at the back, absolute maximum, 5 by 10. Now, in this case, I did a pretty big island here. You'll see it's 5 by 12. Big island. It's kind of the centerpiece in this kitchen. We got 5 stools here. You can usually easily fit 6. Actually, I did have 6. But the idea here is, again, big island. That's where a lot of people are spending their time at. So let's give them some space. Another example of that too, you can see here that, again, that island's just stretched out. We likely have a seam in this. Now, as far as the finish of the islands go, whether it's a cabinetry ends, if it's got legs on it, or if it's a waterfall edge, still all over the board. There really isn't a defined, this is what everyone's looking for right now. The idea here is just that the size is bigger, better. Next, I want to talk about the closets. Closets, not just the master closet either, but we're doing bigger closets everywhere. Bigger master closets. We're not just doing reach-in closets for those secondary rooms either. If we can get a walk-in closet in here, that's the goal for most people. And also the goal is make them cool, make them feel unique. How do we make this closet feel like a department store? That's what a lot of people come in. They have these big pictures of a department store with a cool dark color moody scheme with maybe glass with like their Nikes in there or some purses on display. And here's an example of a house here where it wasn't a big house. I think this house was maybe 2,600 total square feet, but really wanted to get some closet space in here. So we have not only his and hers closets in the owner suite, we have hers off the bathroom. We also have a big one over here for his. And you can see here that, there's a lot of closet space and the room gets a little smaller. I think people are okay with that because less and less people tell me that they have the big bedroom sets. They don't have the 2 dressers anymore with the armoire over in the corner. They want to keep it simplified. They want to hide that stuff in the closet, maybe have a his and hers section. If not, it's just one big closet, maybe an island in there, maybe a window to the outside, or a space where they can just kind of simplify the bedroom itself. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not just the master suite. It's also these secondary bedrooms. They want the kids to have walk-in closets too. It makes sense. We want to keep the bedroom a little more simplified in the master suite. Oftentimes the same concept goes for the kids' rooms. Not so much worried about a dresser anymore if we get a walk-in closet. That allows somebody to put a desk in the corner. Maybe it's a little gaming station, a little homework station. That is giving a little bit more freedom there because we can hide the typical bedroom arrangement in the closet. Here's a fine example too of going a little bit further. We had a big walk-in closet, but we also had a nice cool dressing area off to the side versus handbags, ties, whatever, shoe rack here, a little dressing area outside of the closet itself. These are really cool spaces, and it does come down to square footage, right? I mean, we're not putting this in a 2,000 square foot house, but if we can get a nice closet, maybe there's an island in there, maybe there's just a small little are more like a small little foyer right outside the closet in the master. Maybe that's a small little dressing area. Something cool, something unique, something to set them apart. And really, this allows any type of family to kind of grow into the closet. The room itself, oftentimes, especially as people age, there tends to be less things in the room just because we want to keep an open path, but also it just keeps things simplified. You're not worried about getting a piece of furniture that's going to go out of date soon. It's kind of all hidden around the corner. Another fine example of this one's kind of got a little bit of everything. It's got a window in there, a big island, some bench seats underneath the window. They really almost treat it as a retreat. You can go in there, you can read a book, you can get away if you wanted to, but also you can have a little layout table. Next, I want to talk about the offices. It's more than an office too. It's a kid's playroom. It's the library or the homework station, or even a guest bedroom. But let's make sure it has a view. We want to make sure that that office has a view, not just to the typical, to the front porch. A lot of times now we're trying to find new spaces for these offices or the dens. And a lot of times it's in a view-seeking area. Maybe it's on the back of the house. So if mom or dad's working from home, they can see the kids playing in the backyard, or they just feel like it's a little more private. A lot of these office spaces are being used, and they don't want to be used right off the floor because oftentimes when they're being used, they end up being a little more messy, a little less tidy oftentimes. So if we can hide that space, maybe at let's say the back of the house, become something that's going to be used more often and a little less intimidating when you first walk in the door and you're worried about your friends looking into your office. They have mail all over the place or something on the ground. Great example of how that might integrate into a floor plan here. You can see that, let's see. Well, I ended up taking where you might see the traditional office off the foyer right when you first walk in with some double doors off to the side. We put that to the back of the house. Now it's in a little more private area. It's in a view-seeking room. We're looking towards the back of the house. And what's cool about this, right now, the idea was that this is going to be more of a kid's playroom. And that's going to evolve as that family continues to grow as well. But as a playroom, now it's close to the kitchen. Mom wanted to be close to the kitchen, but it's also an area where they can put all the kids' toys, shut the door, no one has to see it. As they age, as the family grows a little bit more, the idea is that transforms into library space. When you look down this corridor from the kitchen to the den, these big, beautiful built-ins along the backside, really kind of inviting you to the room, but it's almost like a wow feature around the corner, something special. Just a good example of how do you make that room and why do you have a room that's a view-seeking room? Well, if you're working from home and you've got a beautiful view like this to the back, you feel a little more private, a little more secluded. Yeah, everyone tends to feel a little more comfortable in those rooms as opposed to being out in the foyer. You've got to worry about family members walking by, or you're on the phone a lot for work. You got to have the door shut. Here, it's a little more private. It just tends to be used a little more deliberately. And if we don't have room for that, we're often having people still request some type of small little pocket office. In this case, this is the opposite side of a picture I showed you earlier of that walk-in pantry prep kitchen area, but it was just kind of a part of that space. It's around the corner, it's hidden, but you can have the computer there, you can have the mail drop there. It's something simple, just your daily tasks are back there. Somewhere in the house where we can have a space like that's important, and it's usually not off the foyer anymore. Another good example of that being a little closer to the kitchen, being a little more close to the family. Still has double doors. This family doesn't work from home a ton, but the idea here was you're close to everything. It's not off the foyer, a little more intimate. Next, I want to talk about the laundry rooms. This one tends to change a lot. And right now, I'd say one of the bigger trends is moving the laundry room from the mudroom closest to the garage, but a little closer to all the bedrooms. For years, it's been what I like to call the ultimate family entry, where you'd walk in from the garage, you've got a big open room, you've got a bench there, some cubbies, your washer and dryer in that room, and it's just one big open space. You've got room to maneuver around. What we find though, friends, family, everybody that's coming over tends to come in through the garage, and they walk in through this room, and you got to have that room pristine at all times. So Again, if it's a busy family, I often see, okay, well, maybe the idea is we can separate the laundry room again from this mud space and perhaps move it closer to the bedrooms. Because oftentimes we're trying to take those bedrooms and ship them furthest from the garage. So in this case, you still walk in from the garage here. You've got a nice mudroom off to the left. You have natural light, big walk-in closet, some bench and cubbies. But closer to the bedrooms on the opposite side of the house is the laundry room. Here, this worked out great. We end up having this back side of the house and front wing of the house, and they're connected by the laundry room. They both have their own uh, private entries into the owner suite, and then one off the foyer for the bedrooms up front. But now the laundry room kind of acts as a buffer between the two. What's great about this too is you see, no one's got to carry laundry clear across the house, through the kitchen, through the mudroom, just close to the bedrooms. It's nice, and people worry, well, what about the sound? Am I going to worry about? Am I going to hear the washer and dryer running at night? Well, there's definitely ways to mitigate all that, and on top of that, it's you usually put something in the dryer and it's what, 45, 50 minutes. And then by the time you actually fall asleep, it's usually not a big deal. Again, though, these laundry rooms, they're an area where people like to spend a little bit of time and add their own unique touch. So maybe it's a different cabinet. We can have some fun with the actual tile that's used here. Make this space just feel something totally unique, almost like a pet project of theirs. And say, okay, we got the laundry room. Let's go pick out something different. It can be all off the wall compared to the rest of the house because it's laundry room. It just feels like that's appropriate in this case. And I also have a lot of people saying, well, we're doing the front load washer and dryer, and I want some countertop space and folding area, but I also have a steam closet. I want to be able to hide my hampers in there. And I want to be able, again, see just more of a clean, streamlined laundry room. So we want to make sure we have some room here. We want to not just small little closet. And if we can get some natural light into those areas, all the better. Next, we'll talk about those mudrooms themselves. So like I mentioned earlier, it's oftentimes the new foyer, really. That's where everyone seems to be walking into the house. Now, there's ways I like to set up the house so that we deliberately kind of get our guests to walk through our front door. But let's face it, most friends and family, the garage door's open, they're going to come in through the mudroom. And the idea here is it's a foyer. We want to make sure it's streamlined. Maybe it's not a bunch of closet doors anymore. Maybe it's more specific bench, cubbies, cabinetry, something special here where it doesn't just feel like a small little tight hallway. We want to make sure that there's room. Uh, 2 or 3 people come in the door at once. You're not bumping into each other, trying to wiggle around, be able to shut the door again. Here's a great example of that. Now we widen the hallways up. We have some cubbies off to the side. We even have a little refrigerator here, but there's a drop zone off to the side, and there's also a door to the outside. Of course, you're coming in from the garage, but in this case, we added a door to the outside because one of the most popular things that we have to deal with every day is how do we let our pets out? We don't want to go through the garage, open the garage door, or if we don't want to let them out in the backyard because we don't want them doing their business right where we're going to go hang out. Maybe there's a side door off the mudroom. Great opportunity here. It's also can act as a guest entry door to the outside. And kind of the last thing I'll talk about is this more multi-generational living. And I, this varies for sure. However, it's not just a room typically. If we're doing a multi-generational house, which I see more and more families start to do this now, just based off the cost of things and getting a loan and a mortgage, all that stuff working together. The idea behind that is let's not just add a room off the house there. You got to walk through and you go to the master over here, but right across the hallway is mom and dad's room. And you're 40 years old and you got your mom and dad with you. The idea is how do we make this house set up so it still looks like a single family home, but maybe it's more deliberately separated. In this case, they went a little further. We actually have a shared entryway where you walk in. We didn't want to add a ton of square footage. We want to make this feel like two completely separate houses, even though there's a lot of features that do uh, show it that way. We walk in, we have a shared mudroom, shared laundry room. One direction you go forward, you're in the in-law suite. You go to the right, you're in the main house. They're two separate living areas. However, it looks like one house from the front and allows that separation of families. So it still feels unique, but it's a way to help people manage to get the square footage they need. Because we all face it, the prices are what they are right now, and it's a little difficult for some to get the needed square footage without kind of maybe looking at how do we team up and build something together that we can use as a family. In this case, we actually have a full second floor over the in-law suite. So it does feel like its own retreat. If they want to have a guest over, they can. You don't have to worry about borrowing the room in the main part of the house. And there's ways of doing this that's over the top. There's ways of doing that's just kind of on the light end. And I think there's a good balance when we're looking at multi-generational suites on what's the ultimate goal there? Is it to be a couple years? Is it a 10-year living arrangement? What do we want to do? And I'm not saying that, 10 years and then that's it. No, maybe they go their own way or someone moves or job transfers or something like that. We would really want to consider how does the house come together and then what happens afterwards? What do we do next? Because this, it'd still be a great home that would sell as a single family home and not necessarily that duplex feel. The idea here is a lot of people are looking for that multi-generational suite. Well, a lot of these things I mentioned, all these houses that I happen to show, they're all like bigger houses. Oh, so it's not just these big custom homes that these trends are important to think about. It's also on the smaller production homes or a 2,000 square foot ranch. A lot of these things can still be done on a smaller scale and really give you kind of some of the most updated trends, make the house feel like it's unique to yourself, but also build efficiently too. And one of the ways of doing it, like I mentioned, is also with these covered outdoor livings and integrating the backyard. That backyard space, if you've got a nice patio, relatively simple. It could just be a poured concrete pad off the back of the lanai or off the deck. And it really makes that house feel like it's extended in the backyard. It feels a little more finished, adds a little bit more of that free square footage that we talked about, because now we're just having a space that's dedicated outside. It's clean. It's kind of designed from the start. Next is, how do we add that little feature in somewhere in the house? Is it on the main level or is it in the basement even? Like I mentioned earlier, maybe it's a gourmet coffee bar or a little wine station, or it's just a space somewhere in the house where we can have that heirloom piece of furniture or art collection that just makes the house feel custom to them, but also doesn't date it or feel out of place. Another good way of doing all this stuff and really making your house feel a little more over the top compared to everybody else is how do we add more glass? If we can add more glass in the house, uh, even if we have to sacrifice some upper cabinetry, like in this picture, it's really going to add tremendous value to the house, especially if you're building if you're a builder and you're looking for that spec house. How do you differentiate yourself from the other guy? Some more glass. It's really going to give that high-end feel. Or if we are doing something, it could be just built into the trusses. Maybe we're doing a trade ceiling in the master bedroom or in the great room itself. Well, let's not just do a simple step drywall tray ceiling. Bend a little bit there, maybe add some tongue and groove, maybe it's a beam or two, maybe we're gonna coffer the ceiling in there. Trade ceiling's been around forever, pan ceilings have been around forever, so are these materials, but if we just add that subtle detail in here, it really elevates it that much further beyond the typical trade ceiling. And then here's a good example of a smaller scale house with a lot of the features we just talked about. It's 1,950 square feet, and I want to talk about this plan for just a quick second. Let's see here. Get my little red lines to pop back up. All right, start at the beginning. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Having trouble with my PowerPoint there, but let's start here. We walk in the front door, we've got a featured ceiling. Maybe we're vaulting the ceiling, we're carrying it to that outdoor lanai, really making that connection between the indoor space and the outdoor space. It's going to make this family room feel like it belongs on a 4,000 square foot house as opposed to a 1,950 square foot house. Next, we got a little feature area. It's that wine station or coffee bar. It's off the family room. It's tucked back there. It's not just a simple cabinet against the wall. No, this is more a little pocketed area, and you can make this feel very unique. You have a little personal touch on it. We move the laundry room off the mudroom. It's a little closer to the bedrooms now. Again, it's separating it. You don't have to carry dirty laundry across the house or clean laundry, vice versa. Here we're doing his and hers closets. They're both pretty decent size as well. Has a big island in it. This island's 4 by 8, which is still a really good size. The dining room's pushed back in its own little nook here, but it's surrounded by glass. So you're going to feel like you're up on a perch looking out to the outside, really bringing the outside in and just making that space feel over the top. And also one of the last things I really didn't talk about it much during the presentation, but is the garage. Garage square footage is one of the cheaper square footage you can add to the house. And if we can do a deeper garage, a little bit wider, that's going to set your home apart from everybody else. It's going to make it a little easier for storage. You can see in a garage like this, oftentimes you're trying to put the trash cans in there, maybe a second freezer, wall mount for the bikes. If we get a little more depth to it, all the better. So really good example of how do you fit a lot of these trends in such a smaller scale. I design houses from 1,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, and it varies all the time on what the needs are for your home. But a lot of the stuff I talked about today, it's just based off of some of my most recent trends that I've been really seeing over the last 6 months. What's most important to the client? What's most important to the builder? And then also just how do we make this house not only build efficiently, but live great and also feel like a custom house, totally different from anything else they've seen. Now, there's only certain things we can do with the floor plan, and we're always trying to change that up. But if we stick with some of these 9 trends we talked about today, it's really gonna, give some longevity to the house, allow you to grow a little bit in it, but also it's not gonna date it. We're going to have some great features that'll wow your friends, your family, the client you're trying to sell the home to, and just really elevate you something beyond the rest. So today, those are kind of my 9 points.